Hi, Walter.
Hello, how are you?
Baruch Hashem.
What's doing? What's the good word?
I'm working at the VA, and they're
Yeah,
keeping me plenty busy.
I'm sure of that. I'm
But
sure of
it's
that.
good. It's all good.
Okay.
Tonight is 20.
Tonight is 20, yes. Well,
And you, friend, how have you been?
yeah, good trying to deal with these tariffs. Just not so easy.
It's all part of the meshugas that the world is in.
Huh?
I said it's all part of the meshugas that the world is in. You like that
No,
Koran?
listen, I like
Talmud?
what I sure do. I
You
sure
like it
do.
better
I have,
than
you know,
the Schoenstein?
yeah, nothing to compare. Nothing to
What?
compare.
It doesn't compare?
It's not even to compare. No, I
Why?
don't think so. No. I have every shas. Yeah, I have the Vilna shas. I have every one of them. And this one was because when you learn it, first of all, it gives you all the halachot right away.
Oh, from
So the halacha,
that
you know exactly
element of the Gemara.
whatever the Gemara is telling you, it gives you what the Rambam Paskins gives you, everything that it is. The halacha is on the side all the time. The description, you know, in certain things you need descriptions. The pictures, the way they describe it, the pictures of the trees and the pictures of the whatever it is, whatever they explaining the Kohen Gadol. There's an illustration. Also, the translation is phenomenal. Where Schottenstein, sometimes when they give you the pshat on it, right?
Yes.
They give you their take on what the Gemara really is saying, but it's not really. They don't give you just plain translation, understandable translation. That's the way I find things. I mean, I have two of the Schottensteins. I have the one. I have a travel Schottenstein. You know, the little ones.
The little ones.
I take them with me. But this one, out of all of them.
Okay. I'm thinking about acquiring that one also. So I've said to myself, maybe I should go and just do it. I may just do it.
I got one for Ernie as well, but you know, it's the same as the Steinsaltz. You know, it's the same as the Steinsaltz.
Interesting. Ernesto.
Hi, George.
Well, George, you can ask Ernie what he thinks of the Koren as compared to Schottenstein, to the.
Oh, I prefer Koren. I, in general, use the Steinsaltz Hebrew Gemara, and the Koren is the English translation of that. So, because it brings halacha, the Schottenstein.
That's what we were just talking.
Yeah, I mean, Schottenstein is a different format. It gives you Rishonim, the Ritva, it's very wordy. That's the thing. I find that it's very wordy.
No,
wordy. Huh?
They go according to the shita that they could have put across. Sometimes I found that. In other words, it's not just a straight translation. The translation of Steinsaltz of Koren on the Steinsaltz is fantastic. In other words,
it's
straight to the point.
Better. I like the translation better. It gives you halachic sources, the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, right on the daf. So I'm used to that. They did a very nice job with the Koran. There's explanations, there's pictures.
Ask George. I didn't have this discussion with Ernie. He said exactly the same as I said.
Yeah, he is. He's telling me you're saying the same thing. Very good.
Now
I'm going to go investigate.
By the way, the Schottenstein Hebrew
is very good.
Have a Hebrew. That's wild. That's much better than the English. If you really want to learn in depth, they bring in the Ritva and the Rashba and the Ramban, and that's a real deep learning. I think it's better than the English. Now, could be the Spanish. It could be the Spanish version. Maybe more like the Hebrew version. I don't know how that works. Right, George,
Depends
did you tell us that there's a Spanish version?
It's not, but it's not from Schottenstein. It's from this new group that they put together that. So I have to look at it.
Oh, so it's
They
not
only
the
have it's not.
It's
But
not the Schottenstein
I was
type.
gonna get a couple of the Gemaras that they're putting out. So far they've put Baba Metzia. I think that's as far as the one that I saw. And just to get a feel for it and see if I like it. But let's learn tonight.
Right. Okay.
I won't hold you guys up.
Right.
Thank you for the input. I will take it to heart. I learned something, so I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting. I used it for Shavuos when I stayed up learning. I was using the Koran, so I liked it. So I was curious about your thoughts.
By the way, the Koran has a fantastic siddur. The Koran has a fantastic machzor with Jonathan Sachs explanation. You know, Koran is really an outstanding translator now. It's stepped into the, you know, it used to be just Schottenstein, you know, Art Scroll, but Koran is competing very strongly in many different areas. Okay. Also, I think Koran is based in Israel. So
I think it's true. That's right.
So I like supporting that. Okay. We talked about a Kohen who has a fig where the Truman Meisters has not been given. And then he says, okay, I want the ukitz, meaning the stem, will be the Truma. The north part of the fruit will be the Meiser Rishon. The south part will be the Meiser Sheni. Achla, if he eats such a thing, loika achas. He gets one set of malchus. Why is that? Because he didn't give trumas meiser. Because when you give meiser to a Levi, he has to then separate truma from that. So that was one separation he didn't do. So you get malchus for that. By the way, if he did declare, and the middle part would be trumas meiser of the meiser, the Kohen himself could eat it, right? Because a Kohen, a Zar, a Yisrael would get malchus, multiple malchuses, because he's not allowed to eat truma. You can a Yisrael can be invited over the house of a Levi who's been given meiser. Meiser doesn't have holiness. Meiser just has to be given to the Levi. You can eat the meiser with them. We've been warned against eating truma as a non-Kohen. And you get malchus if you eat it. So this Kohen could have eaten it as long as he was in Yerushalayim, because Meiser Sheni has to be eaten in Yerushalayim. Therefore, a Zar Sha'achla, right? We're on the top of Chaf Amud Aleph. A non-Kohen who eats this fig, loike shtayim. So again, it's tevel. That the Zar, because all the Meisers have not been given, and there's a shtickle truma in it that hasn't been separated, which he's also to eat. She'ilu betchila achla. If the Zar the non-Kohen would have eaten this fig before any of the trumas would have been given, ein aloy kela achas. It would be standard tevel. Even though there's a chelik truma and eventually meiser sheni and all that, but it's one thing now. Now that it's been separated into, let's say, meiser and truma, we get two. So that's interesting. And the case that was brought said it was the year of meiser sheni, because remember, in the Shemitah cycle, we got years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In years 1, 2, and 4, and 5, you give truma, you give meiser rishon to the Levi, and meiser sheni belongs to you, but you have to take it to Yerushalayim and eat it there. In the 3rd and 6th year of this 6-year cycle, instead of meiser sheni, it's meiser oni. You give it to a poor person. You don't keep it for yourself. So that's why the Brisa said, in a year of meiser sheni, and he eats it in Yerushalayim, there's not going to be a problem because he ate it out of Yerushalayim. time of this of Yerushalayim. You know why he didn't give an extra malchus? Because he was in Yerushalayim. But Bigvulin, if he was outside of Yerushalayim, and he had separated Ifrish Meiser Sheni like a Sholish, he would now get a set of malchus for eating the Meiser Sheni outside of Yerushalayim. And remember, we were questioning, does this Isser on the Meiser Sheni, does it have to be brought into Yerushalayim or not? And it seems that yes, even though the Meiser had not been brought into the walls of Yerushalayim yet, you would get malchus for eating the Meiser Sheni outside of Yerushalayim. This is a kasha on Rav Yochanan, who says you don't get malchus unless the Meiser Sheni had been originally brought into the city. So the Gemara answers, no, you don't understand. The Eili. The Meiser, this fig had been brought into Yerushalayim. It just was taken out, Ba'afki. So that's why you get this third set of malchus for eating the Meiser Sheni outside Yerushalayim. So the Gemara asks, what's the big chiddush here? We know that if you eat something outside Yerushalayim, you get malchus. Well, what's the big chiddush in this case? Oh, there's a big chiddush. The fig was brought in before the Kohen had made that statement that the north of the fig would be Truma and the south would be Meiser and all of that. He didn't, it came in as complete Tevel. Okay. But Ksavar, he holds that Matna Shloi Hormu Kamisha Hormu Damyan. Even though the Matanos, the Truma, the Meiser Sheni, have not been actually separated, it's as if they're separated. So that's the Chiddush. So even though this Meiser Sheni had not even been separated, since in the future it's going to be separated, so the din on it is Chal. And therefore, if it was taken in as a fig and then taken out and you ate it outside, you get a malchus for that Meiser Sheni that really hadn't been given yet, but in the future would be given. So that's a big Chiddush. And the Gemara immediately is going to attack that Chiddush. The Sovar, Rav Yosi, Matnei Shloi Hormu, Kamisha Hormu Domi? Does Rav Yosi really hold that if you physically haven't separated the gifts, it's considered as if been separated? Vatanya. We learn in the Baraisa. Rav Shimon ben Yehuda Omer Mishum Rav Yosi. Loi nechleku beisham beisel al perush loi nigmer malachta. You have fruit that it hasn't finished becoming a fruit yet. For example, they haven't gathered it fully. So there's no chiyuv yet, Trumas Maestros. And the Avru B'Yushalayim, and somehow this produce traveled through Yerushalayim. Sheyifte Meiser Sheni Shlem v'yochal b'chol makom. Remember, if you have produce outside of Yerushalayim and it's far away, you can redeem that produce. You have to pay an extra 20% fine. And you bring the money, you don't have to schlep the produce from Tel Aviv to Yerushalayim. You can leave the produce in Tel Aviv, eat it there. You bring the money, the 120% Yerushalayim, you buy food there. So this fruit also, if it's not had Gemar Malacha yet, even though it was in Yerushalayim, there's no Chiyuv Meiser yet, there's no Kedushas Yerushalayim Chal on it yet, you can be pointed and eat it wherever you want. Both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree. Alman Nechleku, where is there a Machloikes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel? Al Peirosh Nigmar Melachta. The fruit's finished. Ve'avru B'Yushalayim. And someone carried the fruit into Yerushalayim, and Trumas and Meisers have not been physically separated. Beis Shammai Oimrim, Yachzer Meiser Sheni Shlehem v'Yochal B'Yushalayim. You cannot be pointed it anymore. You have to bring it back into Yerushalayim and eat it there. Sort of, once it saw the walls of Yerushalayim, it was niklat. Beis Hillel says no. The fruit is the fruit, hadn't been separated, the Trumas and the Meisros. Therefore, it's still as if it was in Tel Aviv. And therefore, you could take it out of Yerushalayim. Yifte v'yochel b'chol makom. Here's the proof. if you're going to hold, like we said, Rabbi Yossi holds, that matnoi shloi hurmu kamisha hurmu damyan, that even though you physically haven't separated the Maasros, it's as if it's happened. How can Beis Hillel allow you to be pointed to the Maaser Sheni? It's as if the Maaser Sheni has been given. It's been in the city of Yerushalayim. That's it. You can't take it back and be pointed anymore. Right? Ha kaltu mechitzos. The walls of the Yerushalayim have already sort of stamped it as Maaser Sheni permanently, even though you haven't been mufresh it. So here it's clear that Rabbi Yossi holds that if the matonis have not been given yet, it's not considered as if they've been given. Amar Rabba mechitza le'echol. This is two different dinim. The halacha that you're not allowed to eat Maaser Sheni outside Yerushalayim is doraisa. However, this din of mechitza liklot, that once you put Maaser Sheni into Yerushalayim, now you can't redeem it anymore. That's the Rabbanon. The Chigaz Rabbanon. When did the Rabbanon say, "Oh, don't take Maaser out of Yerushalayim"? That's ki issa be'enei. You physically separated Maaser Sheni from your produce. But betivle, but if it's just regular produce and you're trying to think, oh, inherently in this produce is potential Truman Maaser, we don't consider that. Betivle lo goz Rabbanon. That's how Rabbah answered. Ravina Omar, that we're dealing with Maaser Sheni that's already been separated and was brought into Yerushalayim. So what's the chiddush? Because the fig that we're talking about has not been physically brought in. If you go to Nakat Le Bekanya, the person holding the fig is in Yerushalayim, but he's holding the fig on a stick. The stick is a long stick, and the fig is at the end of the stick. And the fig is not physically in the city, but he's in the city. Based on this, Tiv should boy the Rav Papa. Yesterday we asked the Shad Rav Papa, and we answered with Teku, but here we don't have to answer Teku. We say it's considered as if it's in your city. And therefore you're not allowed to redeem it. Mishnah. Ha-koreach korcho barosho. You shave they used to shave a part of their head to reveal the skin. And they usually did it because they were in Avelis for a mace. So you get Malchus for doing that. Hamakif pas rosho. So we know you can't, there are four corners of our face. Here, here, here. That we're not allowed to shave. We're not allowed to put a straight blade on those corners of our face. So hamakif pas rosho. Or hamashkis pas zakena. The corners of our beard. You destroy the hair roots. V'asoyret srita achas alames. You like make a tattoo on your arm, or some kind of scratch, and you do it for some kind of avelis. You're chayv malchus. Sora srita achas al chamisha mesim. You made one line for 5 mesim, or chamesh shritas al mesechad chayv al kolachas v'achas. You get malchus for each one. Ala rosh shtayim means it's near our ear. One here, one here. Achas mikan, v'achas mikan. Ala zokein shtayim, right? You have a corner here, shtayim mikan, and one here. V'od echad milmata in the middle. Rav Eliezer Oimer. It's interesting din here. You shave everything in one shot. You only get one malchus. As opposed to if you did it in different acts, you might be chayev 5. Ve'eno chayev ad shitlenu betar. You have to use a straight razor. Well, the Ezra Amar afilu liktu b'melaket or b'rahitni. This is some kind of like a It was an apparatus that also shaved people.
So remove with tweezers, with the tweezers or with plain rahitni.
Right, a rahitni is a device that was like a
plain rahitni,
like a plane that a carpenter uses.
Carpenter's plane resembling those that from the Messianic period.
Exactly.
There's a picture, George. There's a picture of it here, George. Okay. Well, let's see. Where's the
Great.
I'll show you here. Hang on.
Where?
This thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, they got a better one.
You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that rahitni.
Yeah, you see here, George.
Yes, I do.
That's actually it's a model.
George, you see the clearer one in color. That's the
Koran. The Koran looks like somebody built a model.
Right.
Mine was
They
a
did
drawing.
build a model. Yeah.
They built a model.
They built a model. Mine was a drawing. It looks the same thing.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Same thing, but it's easier to see.
George.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
You're going to remember, George, in 10th grade, in Rabbi Grumman's class, when we learned Masechta Shabbos, that's when the Steinsaltz first came out. And I had a Steinsaltz Masechta Shabbos. Without that, we remember we had to make a laning. There was no art scroll.
Nope.
Sansino, but that was terrible.
That was horrible.
It was hard. Remember, it was Old English, thou, thee.
Terrible.
So, Walter, I can tell you, it was tell you when it was, 1974.
Right.
Brachas
73, 74. Yeah.
And or maybe 75, whatever.
I wasn't to that. I was still I was in yeshiva already in Israel.
Yeah, but they may have had a Steinsaltz then too. I'm sure Karen Biavna.
No, Steinsaltz came out then. Steinsaltz came out then.
Just a few, right? Because Brachas, Shabbos, he went in order of them.
And I remember everybody went ballistic on the whole thing.
You mean they were happy or not happy?
No, not happy. They said
the Rebbeim were not happy.
Yeah.
But remember the Kahati? They weren't happy with it. That opened up the Shas.
By the way, Kahati was a father-in-law of there was the guy who was he lived on, where did he live? He lived in Kibbutz Sa'ad, Yoshka Shapira, right?
Really? Yoshka, the head of Bnei Akiva, he was related to Kahati?
Yeah, Yoshka Shapiro's brother was the Rosh Yeshiva, was the Rosh Kollel in Kerem B'Yavne, and his father-in-law was Kahati, and Kahati used to come to Kerem B'Yavne every Shabbos. He was a plain guy. He was a teacher. Was not.
I think he was a bank teller.
A bank teller. He was a bank teller. He was clean shaven, nothing, and he wrote the whole Kahati. And he used to come, the most unassuming man you'll ever see.
By the way, Kahati was originally released serially in like Hamari in the newspaper. Every week, a new one. Then eventually they made it into that sefer.
Yeah, but I
bought it for $40. It was $40. The set of Kahati. It was like brown.
Right.
And that opened up, that led to Steinsaltz. You don't realize.
I've still got the set if you want to.
Of course, I use it all the time when you learn.
But the brown one.
Brown one. It was like brownish gold. And Kahati, Steinsaltz got the idea to do his Gemara based on the Kahati. It was writing in simple Hebrew, translating sentence by sentence. That's what the Steinsaltz did.
That's right. That's what this is all about.
I have the same thing. I use it all.
There you go, George. You need to get a Kahati, George.
That's the Kahati. And that is like a Steinsaltz, but just Mishnayos.
Just Mishnayos. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. You learn Mishnayos with this. It's unbelievable. You know the whole.
By the way, that was not, Walter, that came available in I know when that came available in
That came available in 1972.
No, 77.
No, what are you talking? Ernie, I was in Kerem. Ernie, please. I was in Kerem B'Yavne. I bought this from the bookstore in Kerem B'Yavne in 1973. Okay. So I don't know. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know who's telling you 77. 73.
I bought it in 77.
Oh, well, that's when
Maybe
you
in
grew up.
75.
Okay.
Maybe 75.
But 73.
I bought it
when I
in
came to
Israel.
get- Now, so
You
I
guys.
understand, but they sold it was because we were the first bookstore in the yeshiva. Used to have the bookstore.
Anyways,
we were the first one
this
because he was
paper,
there.
this Kahati led to the writing of
It changed the whole learning in
It did.
Steinsaltz
Because-
Steinsaltz as well as the
because Kahati
Kahati
translated very simple Hebrew sentence by sentence. And that's what the Stein. What happened was, once the Steinsaltz became so popular, so the art scroll, they got into, they became a competitor. They didn't do it the same way. They didn't like that there wasn't a Tzura Sadaf to the Steinsaltz. That it was not based on the Vilna Shas. They didn't like that he changed the Tzura Sadaf. So that's why one of the reasons that the Gedolim, Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rabban, they said, okay, yeah, they told Zlotowitz and Nassim Sherman, yes, go make a new one. Okay, back to the Gemara. Torah. It says, Lo yikruchu korcha, don't make like a line in your skull. Cut out the hair. Maybe if you did it 4 or 5 times, you'd only be chayv once. Talmud loymar korcha. L'chayv kol korcha v'korcha. You'd get 5 makas if you did 5 lines. And when it says barosha ma talmud loymar, what do we learn? L'fishanemer los is go to do v'losasim korcha beinechem lameis. In Devorim, there's another lav that you cannot like shave this area between your eyes. So maybe the prohibition is just between the eyes. You're not allowed to make a bare area anywhere on your head. The rabbis kol harosh. I might think only Kohanim are prohibited. Sheriba ben Akos of mitzvah siseros. Kohanim have a lot of prohibitions. Yisrael minayin. What about a regular Jew? Nemar kan korcha v'nemar lalan korcha. It says by Yisraelim korcha. It says by Kohanim korcha. Malaholan chayva kol korcha v'korcha. Just like the Kohanim are chayv for each one. Chayva kol korcha. The Jew is also chayva kol korcha v'korcha. And v'chayv b'rosh k'benayinayim. And a kohen cannot make a line in his head as well as between the eyes. Afkan by Yisrael chayva kol korcha v'korcha v'chayva rosh k'benayinayim. Umala halan afkan almeis, afkan almeis. That means to just do it, there's no law. But if you do it because you're mourning over a dead person, you get malk. Hani arba v'chamisha krichos. That you get 5, you make 5 shavings for 1 mace, that you get 5 malkuses. How would that work? That means somebody said, don't do this, you're going to get malchus, and he does it. And then he's about to do it again, and somebody warns him, don't do it, you're going to get malchus. So if that's the case, so pshita he's going to get 5. That's like every case. Why would this be a chiddush? Ela b'chad asra. With 1 asra. With 1 asra, would you get 5 malchus? Vatnan. Nazir shayeshoysa yain kolayom. A nazir is not allowed to drink wine, and you warn him, don't drink wine, and he drinks wine a whole day. Ein achayv elachas. It's amrulo each time al tishte v'ushoyse chayv kolachas v'achas. So we don't understand how can you get multiple malchus for the shaving. Lo tzricha sach chamesh etzba'osav. Nasa v'ozvin b'vasachas. He put a depilatory, that's a chemical that takes away hair, and he put it on each one of his fingers. V'ozvin b'vasachas. And he put it on his hair and it made 5 holes. Dehavalei hasra l'kol chad v'chada. It's as if he was given a warning for each and every finger. And therefore, the chiddush is, you get 5 malchuses. Kama hu shir. Korcha. How much hair do you have to pull out? You have to see the skin. Rav Shimon Kigris, the size of a bean. and kitanoi. It's machlokes tanoi. Kamashir korcha kigris. A beam. You have to see the skin. Pligi plus a tanoi. Three tanoi margi. Chad omar kigris. A beam. Chad kedeshir mirosha. You have to see the skin. Chad omar kishtei cyrus. 2 hairs. The ikidim mafik. Shtei cyrus. Uma'ayel bechadash. Some say remove the 2 hairs and say it's the size of a lentil beam. V'simonech baheres. Baheres is a type of nega tsaras, is kigris. Umiche, which is raw skin, which is in the baheres, the shear is kadosha. Tana, hanotel mole piazug, b'shabes chayv. If you cut with scissors, a full scissor length of hair on Shabbos, you chayv skila. Kama mole piazug, how much is it? Amivida shtayim, 2 hairs. Ivatanya lekorcha shtayim, that to be chayv for korcha you need 2, but for Shabbos maybe 1 is enough. Ema v'chein lekorcha shtayim, and then it's for both. The shear is 2 hairs. Taina ma'achi, hanotel mole piazug b'Shabbos chayiv. If you cut hair on Shabbos, how much you get chayiv skila? Kama mole piazug shtayim, 2 hairs. Rabbi Lezer achas. U'moedim chachon Rabbi Lezer b'malakid levonos b'toch schoris. But if you are picking white hair out of black, then afilu achas shu chayiv, because you made a full malacha, because he's makpid to get rid of that hair. Listen to this. In our era of men being women and women being men, Jews are not allowed to trim their white hair out of their black hair. Why? You're not allowed to dye your hair. That's like wearing women's clothing. And doing this kind of grooming, you'd be violating a lav, and you get malchus for it. Hamakif pas roisha. You shave the corners of your head. Torabonon pas roisha soif roisha. Veza soif roisha ze mashvet stov. Here, by the temporal bone, right here by our payas. Lachre ozno lepadachto, from behind the ear until our forehead. Tani atana, kamed Rav Chizda, echad amakif, echad anikif. Both the guy cutting the hair and the guy who's having his hair cut gets malchus. I understand. Lucky? Why the guy who's getting his hair cut didn't do any maisa? How can he get malchus? So the Amar Lechamani, Rav Yudi, Shomer Lav Shein b'maisa loikin alav. Perhaps it's the sheet of Rav Yehuda says you don't need to do a maisa. No, but Rava Omar no. The makif la'atzma, he's giving himself his own haircut. So he's the makif and the nikif, l'divrei kol. And then Rav Ashi explains b'misayeya. You could be getting a haircut, but you put your head close to the guy to make it easier for him to give you the haircut. You're a misayeya to dvar aveira, you're chayiv too. Then we said amashkis pasakano, you destroy the root of the hair. Ton rabbanon pasakano sofskano, the end of your beard. Ezeo sofskano shibolaskano, the corner here and this center. V'amasarit srita achas, you make a line like a scratch for a mace. Ton rabbanon v'seret lanefesh lo titnu b'vsarchem. Don't put a seret in your flesh. V'seret yachol afilu seret al beso shenofal. Maybe you're upset because your house collapsed, or val sfinoso shetova b'yam, your boat sank. Tamad lover lanefesh eno chayiv el ala meis bilvad. You're only chayiv on this aveira if you did it in mourning for a dead person. You made 5 scratches on one death. You're chayiv 5 malchus. Tamad lover v'seret l'chayiv kol shrita v'shrita. Rav Yossi you made 1 scratch for 5 mesim. You're chayav kol achas v'achas. 5. Tamad lover l'nefesh. L'chayiv kol nefesh v'nefesh. Okay, we'll stop here. The Tzorba will start, God willing, at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow, we will learn at 7 o'clock again. Okay.
No, you can't learn tomorrow only.
I'm sorry, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
5 o'clock tomorrow. It's the only time we could learn because the Mincha and Ma'ariv for Yom Ha'atzmaut tomorrow is 6 o'clock at Yula. So we'll learn at 5 o'clock.
Well, Yula starts 6:30, but that's okay.
5 o'clock gives us some time.
Give us time to get there.
Exactly.
Okay. Shkoyach.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.